So, that was fun. I'm at Peter's now, and I got a message when I woke up this morning at 7 o'clock, God, on a weekend, that's just not natural, that Nicole's flight wasn't in until an hour later than we thought. Which is... it's alright for us, but there are people already on their way now. It can't be helped, I suppose, but nevertheless, today's the big day. I'll speak to you again when we're on the road, or the tube, whatever it is. I'm not awake yet. Getting closer. Heathrow Airport's like a city in and of itself, almost. I mean, I think it's like, what, 20,000 people work here?
Oh, roughly, yeah. Quite a fair amount, yes.
Doctor, all of these corridors look the same. Well, we're here now. All we've got to do is wait. Hello. Ah, my erstwhile video bomber James.
Yeah.
And that was a fun trip, wasn't it? Oh, hello.
Hi.
She's here.
I'm here. I'm tired, but I'm here. Two of us in the same space.
Insane.
Time for another tube.
Right, off we go.
So this line is moving rather fast.
Yeah. So Nicole, just quickly, if we could have a rundown of what has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours.
The last 24 to 48 hours. Well, I got on a plane in Canada after going through the cool X-ray machine, because apparently I'm an explosives hazard,
right.
And flew to Heathrow, where I snuck up on the crowd that was waiting for me. Then we quickly made our way onto the tube after I learned how to queue, and we then spent the day traveling around. I saw the London Eye, walked the banks of the Thames, went to the Globe Theatre and saw Shakespeare performed, then went to a club in Camden and saw Rick C, and somehow made it home and actually didn't pass out after being awake for roughly 20 odd hours straight. Got a good night's sleep, and now we're at the tower.
Most impressive on both counts.
On both counts.
Thank you.
We are now standing in the outer wall of the Tower of London. That is to say, between the inner and outer defensive wall. The inner wall is 50 foot high and the outer wall is 28 foot thick. To your left or behind you is Mint Street, so named because up until 1812, all the coins of the realm were designed and produced here. The buildings that house the mint are called the casemates, or houses within the walls, and are now used as accommodation by some of my yeoman warded colleagues and their families. Behind you, that tall, narrower archway than the one that we have just walked through is known as a sally port or royal entrance. Back in the day, when the streets of London were nothing more but rough, uncomfortable tracks, royalty would much prefer to use the more comfortable route via the river. They would arrive by royal barge, land at the Queen's Steps on the far side of the wharf, cross a small drawbridge and enter the tower through that archway there. It was at those gates that King Henry VIII so lovingly greeted his second wife, Queen Anne Boleyn, the mother of the future Queen Elizabeth I. Poor Anne was fated to return to the tower 3 years later, but for a very different reason and through a very different gate. But more about her later. Behind me, there's the bell tower, so named because of the small white box on top that contains the oldest surviving curfew bell in London. It dates back to 1651. And it was rang to warn people when it was time to leave the tower. It was also rang in alarm and would be the signal for all gates to be closed, drop gates to be lowered and battlements to be manned for defence. The bell tower is the strongest of the 13 towers on the inner wall. It stands on masonry 30 foot deep. That's 20 foot below ground and 10 foot above. Its walls are 10 feet thick at the bottom, tapering to 8 feet thick at the top. Inside there are two circular chambers, one on top of the other. The lower chamber is illuminated by narrow arrow slits. That's the crosses you see on the wall. And the upper chamber has fitted windows. Both chambers are unique in that there is no staircase connecting them. Access can be gained from two separate doors on the upper and lower levels of the Queen's House, which is the private residence of the Constable of the Tower. Access can also be gained from the Beauchamp Tower and along those ramparts. Due to its construction, it's clear to see why prisoners were held in both these chambers. The man for all seasons, Sir Thomas More, one-time Lord Chancellor of England, was held in the lower chamber for refusing to accept King Henry VIII as the head of the Church of England. At the same time, and for the same reason, John Fisher, Bishop of Rochester, was held in the upper chamber. Both men were to suffer terribly, but would not be persuaded to abandon their beliefs. And so finally, they were taken out to Tower Hill and publicly beheaded. 400 years later, in 1935, both men were canonised as saints of the Roman Catholic faith. Another famous prisoner believed to be held in the bell tower is the young Princess Elizabeth Tudor. Her half-sister, Queen Mary Tudor, had reason to believe that Elizabeth was involved in the Sir Thomas Wyatt rebellion against the Queen's plans to marry Philip of Spain. Now, fortunately, Elizabeth was proved innocent, but she was still banished for nearly a year to Woodstock Palace near Oxford. She would return to the Tower within 4 years to prepare for her very own coronation. But that would be the last time she would visit the Tower in her long reign of nearly 45 years. Lastly, James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth, eldest of 13 illegitimate children of King Charles II, was also held prisoner in this tower or nearby. After the death of his father in 1685, this handsome and popular young man was persuaded to stake his claim to the throne by the virtue of his uncle, King James II, who was a known Roman Catholic. So Monmouth landed on the west coast of England, marching inland, gathering popular Protestant support in what was to be known as the Monmouth Rebellion. But the revolt was crushed at the Battle of Sedgemoor on the 6th of July 1685, with the leader, James Scott, escaping the battlefield, evading capture for a week before being found hiding in a ditch. Condemned to death, in his absence there was no need for a trial. And so 3 days later he was led out to Tower Hill. And that would prove to be one of the bloodiest executions ever in English history. I need a dummy. Are you a dummy? The executioner, Jack Kesh, took 5 strokes of the axe to sever the head from the body, and still had to finish the job with a butcher's carving knife. Yeah.
Okay, so I could have shot a lot more in the Tower of London, but honestly, I just have to encourage you to go there because it's a very, very good experience. Now, we've just walked over that, and we're just walking by this, which is London City Hall, or as it is colloquially known, the Glass Testicle. I wonder if Boris is in today.
And it's also known as Boris Johnson's care home.
Yeah. In joke for the British people there. I love walking down the South Bank. You see some characters. The force is strong and listen. It's one of those things that never really gets old. Seeing a bunch of my friends, all of whom are from different parts of the world.
This is where Clive got his picture.
Ah, yes.
There it is.
Yeah.
These are really nice.
Ah! Yes, James, we know about you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Sometimes.
I have missed this.
Impressionable.
So Nicole, can you just reenact for me how you spent most of yesterday? I really hope this is the screen cap I have for the video.
No, I spent most of the day exhausted and not really taking in what was happening, just kind of stunned. But now I know what I did, so it was all pretty cool.
Cool.
Now I'm walking around like, not quite so stunned.
Quizzical.
Quizzical, yes. You get all the way to the top, and then you don't get the lion shot.
There's some bloody big lions though, aren't there?
They are. And then I get this lovely green power box shot. I wonder if there's a way. Look at that.
The moment of truth here. Nicole is going to have her first proper cup of British tea. Alright, here we go.
There you go. It's tea.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Yeah, it is tea.
It's tea. It's good. Hello.
Hi.
I'm on film.
So yeah,
Not really on film because film doesn't really exist anymore. I'm pixels and bits of electricity bouncing.
you're just a pile of pixels, darling.
That's right.
But yeah, Piccadilly Circus.
Times Square, smaller.